Yo, what's the deal? You got along with the Six Skin Poet here to make a video response to B Man's Homosexual and Common Sense video. And I feel like, there's so many different perspectives of this as far as sociological and psychological perspectives that, there's different takes that people have. And, I think that that doesn't allow me to fully agree with what you're saying. I feel like, to a certain extent, yeah, I feel like, everyone should be respected, specifically the homosexual community, for what they have to go through in this time. It's a rite of passage. Everyone has to fight for respect. It's not just going to be given. But respect is only given to those that earn it. And, I feel like, it's one thing to fight for what you're saying, but then it's another thing to act out. And I feel like a lot of people in the homosexual community act out. And I think, the way of doing that is going against the system. It's happened throughout history repetitively that people that don't get respect for whatever reason, whatever group of people that is, are going to revolt. And you have that in the homosexual community. Instead of being fearful or feeling intimidated about what people are going to say, they do so on the inside, but project more of an unstable behavior outwardly to other people. And for those that are homosexual and have an issue with what I'm saying, I really don't give a fuck, but I'm just going to keep it real. When I'm in different environments, I would say the majority of the time with homosexuals, I do feel objectified. And I don't feel like it's the way that people really are. I feel like that is what is expected of the community. It is expected of a homosexual that they have to objectify people in order to fit in, or that's what they feel is expected of them. And I feel like that's really sad, because you don't really look for somebody for their intellectual ability to carry a conversation, or somebody knowledge of a certain area, or even an open ear to listen to what is important that that person who identifies as a homosexual were to say. But instead of that, it's always like this projected ignorance of the person is in the fads, and it's very difficult to find the personality amongst the sexuality. And I think that's really sad. I really think that internally the homosexual community has a lot of issues because of the difficulty in finding a person's self within the homosexual community. I think it's a very difficult thing to do. And I feel like the same shit that women had to go through, unfortunately a lot of people in homosexual community are going to have to go through. Same way women have been objectified and you see them booty popping and shit on TV and all that different shit, gay people are starting to have to go through that shit too. And it's really sad because that's a stereotype. It's being projected by a whole lot of homosexuals. But why after you saw women be objectified, being treated like they're pussies essentially, and then homosexuals seem to have an issue when people think that? Well, on an individual basis, if more homosexuals did not project that stereotype, trendy, all these different, there's lots of different people that fit into the role of homosexual. There's a lot of people that identify with a certain perspective. But when you project a stereotype, then you can't get mad when other people correct you and saying, well, this is not the way shit is. And I think on a more specific basis, when you brought J Love into your video, I had to really think about, like, the videos that I saw. I was instantly turned off by the videos because he was talking about light-skinned, multicultural, all these different individuals. He had no insight. He had no prior knowledge of these individuals besides Baltimore. What a minuscule perspective that is. In order for somebody to respect you, you have to say something respectable. But if you're just shooting off at your mouth and you don't have any factorials to back it up, obviously I'm going to feel like that person is insignificant intellectually to even have an opinion, because his opinion is based on nothing. His opinion is based off of 1% of the population, or maybe 5% of the population. That's when it really comes down to it. He has nothing to add, even though he may feel like he really is a part of that, and he really has an understanding. He understands jack shit to me, because it's all about, if you don't have any self-esteem and you're just projecting an image based upon other people, then you don't have any uh, substantial experience to base it upon. And I feel like, the same thing can just be said about this entire topic. It's other people who are ignorant or not ignorant are going to judge you in a judgmental world. And from what I've seen of his video and this particular topic of homosexuals, there are some people that, yeah, you will feel sorry for, but some people add to the stereotype. Going on to Spike Lee and Tyler Perry's films, where they're having a little beef or whatever. I look at Tyler Perry's films and I look at Spike Lee's films. What is Spike Lee known for? If I was to think of one thing of each one of those producers, I would say Spike Lee, do the right thing. What does that tell me about his film? It says so many things on so many different levels of where Spike Lee is trying to go. And I have respect for that, because I can respect somebody who's trying to tell somebody to do the right thing. No matter what your perspective was, there were so many different perspectives in the film. And I feel like he hit on a lot of different areas, and he allowed people to have a take on it so people can understand and respect it. When I think of Tyler Perry, I see Tyler Perry, crossdresser, confusion, sitting in the front pew, knows all about the Bible, but then when it really comes down to it's an ignorant perspective, like the person doesn't know what they're talking about. It's a gun-toting, tether-wearing, in and out of jail, talk shit to the family and turn around and sit in the front pew of the church. I don't know about anybody else, but I don't like to be that's not how I want people to see people in my family or myself. And even though I do recognize the fact that there are people out there, I don't need no film out to make a stereotype. Because when people look at you, then they think that shit is acceptable. Maybe that's the only film that they've known. I've lived in places where someone has never touched a minority before, and people have walked up to me and touched my skin because they've never seen a minority before. It's not a good look for you to have a situation like that, and they already have those assumptions. Nobody asked that motherfucker to do that shit. I can understand you making one film, but when you make a series of films based upon that bullshit, there's an issue. And I think the same thing can be said about people who live in real life, people who live in reality and have those kinds of issues and project it out, create negative stereotypes, and then other people who are negative feed onto it. So it's a double-edged sword. You can't just look at people who, are saying what they have to say. You have to look at the reasons why they're saying it too. And I think some of the reasons are legitimate. And I'm not saying it's okay to, group people together and dog shit out of people, but I think some of the issues and some of the things that people are trying to say, they're true. They're true. And it's based upon perception. And I'm not saying the other way isn't right either. It's not right, for anybody to disrespect somebody else. But if there's a reason why, then you have to look at what's being projected from all parties. And what I see what's projected from homosexuals is there is an issue. There is an issue with self-esteem. There's an issue with people being too much into the physical. Issue with people being too secretive about the lingo, and this is like a separate culture when people are pretty much all the same. People always want to be accepted. People want to have the right to be with the person they want to be with, and then they're going to fight against that system. But there's a way to fight against it that's healthy, and there's a way to fight against it that's unhealthy. And I would say that there are some things that need to be worked on. And the way that people will truly understand that is by better understanding each other, and stop making it like, oh, this is my situation, and you don't get it, because you really don't know the actions that you project of how another person takes it, because you don't walk in their shoes. Especially if a person gonna educate you about it. But that's along with the 6 Skin Poet, and that's my take. 2 fingers, and I'm out.